Hello and welcome to Meet the FFUKers. It's episode 6, apparently, and yeah, welcome along if you're watching, and thank you for joining us. With me, I've got Pete as always. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone.
And I've also got James Page Chatton with me. Hello, James.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And finally, from all the way from Greece, I've got Craig Sharman. How you doing, Craig?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Hey, everyone.
Excellent, wicked. Okay, right. First of all, well, before we start, we're gonna look back at our game week 8, how we did. But before we do that, James, you've been organising something for the FFUK mid-season do. What do you want to tell us all about it?
Yeah, for those that haven't read the 17 reminders about our 1st of December get together, we are doing a quiz night, and there's probably, well, hopefully going to be sort of 10 or so of the local Shaftesbury crew, but we'd like to get as many people down as we can do. It's a good night. We've done many quizzes at the club before. This year we are raising money for prostate cancer. We've got hopefully a representative coming down to talk to us a little bit about the subject that no one wants to talk about, the digit up the backside. There are a lot more methods than that, and obviously the awareness and the raising money will help to avoid the digit up the backside and make things a little bit easier to detect, something which is obviously growing as one of the biggest killers in men our age. So we've chosen them. It's a great night, and there's also some significant football on that afternoon, as well as the Shaftesbury game. We've got a Liverpool match, which unfortunately Dunk can't make it, but he'll be there in spirit for us. But yes, any details that you need, if you need accommodation, there are still beds here which go up for grabs. I know Pete and Chris are staying with me, Tim and Dazza and Galloway Senior have booked in, and I can't remember who else, one other. But yes, if you need accommodation, there is local places that you can stay, and if you ask nicely, you might even get bacon eggs with me. So it will be a good do. It will be laid on. It's a professionally run quiz at the football club, cheap beer, and yeah, it'll be a good night. So hopefully you'll be swayed to maybe make contact and say, I fancy that. There should be quite a few of us coming down. So that's my pitch over there.
Awesome. No, good pitch. No, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and Pete is as well, I know.
That's great.
Yeah, we've been brushing up our yeah, so I think it's a sports and music quiz from what
yes, we've tailored it with our professional quizmaster to be very much based around general football supporters, so there's no sort of science or biology. It's purely going to be about football and music, so it should be fairly light and easy to score on.
High scoring.
No art history, Pete, unfortunately.
No. I have to revise something else instead.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, as James says, just get in touch if you fancy that one. Right, let's move on to game week 8, the most recent game week. I'll do me first quickly. I got 65 points, which is pretty okay. But I did take out Aubameyang for Kane, and I think I detailed it in my review on the website. I haven't forgiven Harry Kane, and I'm not sure if I ever will for his non-performance. And I think it's a fairly common theme this week. A few of us fell into the Kane trap. 18th in the league, which is pretty good. I'm normally struggling a little bit at this point, so I'm quite happy with 18th. But there's some big names above us, unfortunately. But yeah, so decent week for me. What about you, Pete? How did you do?
Very average. I'm actually bang on average. I scored 50 points, which was the average. I'm 108th, and I've been sitting around there for most of the season, which is pretty depressing. And I can't seem to get a break at the moment. I had a little bit of some green arrows after my wild card, which is either last week or the game week before last, 6 maybe. But I can't do anything to gain on anyone at the moment. So I'm just going to keep at it, and eventually I'll catch a wave, basically. I thought it was going to be Kane this week. I didn't think everyone else was going to get him in, and I did think he might have found a bit of form and was let down, unfortunately. I knew Aguero wasn't a good option for this week, at least, anyway. And, you know, Kane, Wembley to Cardiff, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did you do that move then? Did you do Aguero to Kane?
Yeah, so I did straight Aguero to Kane, and I used my other free transfer to free up funds, downgrading my fifth mid. So I've got 3.5 mil in the bank, and I might just go straight back to Aguero, to be honest.
Well, and have even more money in the bank.
Yeah, so that money's and then I'll probably use that money to bump up the fourth mid.
Okay. Well, we'll come to what your later plans or your next week plans a bit later on. Okay. Don't want to ruin the climax of the video there, Pete. Right, James, what about you? How did you get on?
I've had a shocking last couple of weeks. I'm going to blame Stu after his very good article about the science behind scoring a regular amount of points. I can't remember what the average per week was. Was it something like
65
to win it, you have 45 or something bizarre like that? And there was a method behind it. Anyway, I looked at my team and I thought I need to basically get some regular scorers in. They're just going to be bread and butter that I'm not going to touch for the rest of the season. So I made the change. I took out Mitrovic, who, you know, he is going to score, but he's going to probably frustrate. Probably a bit like Zaha that people are finding. I've never had him in, but he's just hot and cold. So I took out Mane and Mitrovic, and I put in Maddison and Kane. So my -4 was covered with a 2 point from Maddison and a 2 point from Kane. So I had a shocker and finished up with 39 points. Holebas sent off, Tarkowski injured, Milner injured. So it was just like Aguero 1 point. So fortunately, I did have Lacazette, which probably, if I didn't have Lacazette, I would have gone out of the comps. So yeah, I've kind of gone for the method: Hazard, Kane, Lacazette, Aguero. They're going to be my nucleus of hitters, and I'll just bring in accordingly where I can. But yeah, I was not very happy with my score this week or last week, and I've obviously stopped Dazza from his losing streak. So that was a real shame that I didn't managed to beat him either.
Oh, fair play to you for coming on here after that, because many a lesser manager might have said, no, I don't fancy that, because the first thing I've got to talk about after the quiz is so well played anyway. What about you, Craig?
Do you know what? It seems to be a bit of a downbeat there. I think 74 points. I'm gonna take that. A couple of very clever. I took out Holebas and put in Alonso, who I know everyone's got Alonso. So I was like, right, I'm the last. I feel like the last person in the world to put Alonso in. He scored me a safe 6 points, and then disappointingly, actually, I took out. I think I took out Lukaku because I threw Lukaku in the week before, hoping he would score something. He didn't, and I threw in Arnautovic, thinking, Friday night game, the lights are on. Arnautovic is going to be up for against Brighton, and he obviously just likes playing against United, basically. So and then I tactically benched Alexander-Arnold and Mane. So so 74 points. I'll take that with quite a lot of money on the bench.
Yeah, who did you captain then?
Hazard captain, and then Doherty 15 points in defence with Trippier and Alonso another 13 for them too. So
the Kane captaincy just punished us so bad. In fact, we're all, for the three of us, are good for coming on this video, because it was so painful, because we would have probably captained Hazard. It was just so obvious. He's playing Southampton. He's had a week's rest. He'd come on for 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the Europa League just to keep him ticking over. It was so obvious, but we all got blinded by the Kane thing.
He had a good midweek game though, didn't he, mate? I think that was a difference.
Who, Kane?
Yeah.
Well, they got battered by Barcelona.
He scored though, didn't he?
He scored a really good goal, and do you know what? That was the thing that I was resisting until that point, and I watched the highlights, and obviously Messi and Suarez and who's the third one? Oh my God! Coutinho absolutely ripped them to shreds. It should have been about 8-2 from the highlights I saw. But Kane's goal was really good. Kane's goal was he like turned back and curled it in. It was like watching Kane from 2 seasons ago, last season. And I just thought that's
it feels like we're top. It feels like with Tottenham at the moment, they're playing Kane as Roy Hodgson did, which was the kind of playmaker rather than the striker. And you feel like he's going to start taking corners and free kicks any moment now.
It's mental, isn't it? Why we've got a guy who scores goals just without play him up top. It's ridiculous.
You would never pass the ball into Michael Owen, would you? Like
no, but sometimes football managers do your head in because I think they're trying to. The game is quite simple at the end of the day. If you've got someone like Kane in your side, just put him up top, let him on penalties, let him on free kicks around the box, and he'll score 25, 30 goals. But yeah, unless he's playing Cardiff and we captain him. But
you're not shipping him out, though, are you, Chris?
I am shipping him out. I think we'll come to that later. Yeah, I think I'm going to ship him out straight away, in almost just in disgust. But we'll come to that. Well, we're going to talk about heavy hitters next, and obviously Kane is a massive part of that. The 3 big heavy hitters this season, Aguero, Kane and Salah, in terms of price really and stature, they've all got doubts over them, I would say, in one way or another. And there are cheaper options definitely there from the same teams and from other teams that are performing. The only one really that is performing so far is Hazard. So it's just really what do you think about the heavy hitters this season? Because normally by now there's someone we just know we're jumping on him. Everyone's got him. He's a captain most weeks, and okay, that's could argue that's boring, but that doesn't seem to be the case just yet. What's anyone's thoughts? Craig, what's your thoughts on the heavy hitters?
Do you know what can I say? This is probably the first time in a couple of years that actually fantasy football has really excited me in a different way, in the sense of actually it's so unpredictable. In like you say, normally we've captured onto Salah, we've captured onto Kane, Ricky Lambert, you could go through the history of it, and Charlie Austin, and there was always somebody that was maybe cheap and bagging the goals. This year, I feel every team could beat every team, and maybe City and Liverpool, dare I say, as a United fan, Liverpool, but and even Arsenal, the way they're playing at the moment, and actually, how many people are backing Arsenal players? Because I've got none in my team, and I'm looking at they've won 8 on the bounce, but
they look good.
No, but also there's the teams that are City Champions League, their team is unpredictable in the league. Liverpool Champions League, all of a sudden they're starting to get the rotation in midfield. They're not getting their strikers are Firmino is definitely not scoring the points that he did last season. Mane and Salah are obviously not as well, or Mane's starting to die down a little bit. So actually, it's just really unpredictable, and I think that's what makes it even more exciting, because actually I think if the formulaic process of this, actually all of a sudden everyone's just almost picking the same 11. Whereas I think if you looked at the top 10, they haven't got the same teams.
No, that's a good point. What about you, James? What do you think about the Salah situation? Because that's the key thing, really. We were all on Salah at the beginning of the season, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm quite disappointed, and obviously you know how I feel about things because I often post it. Obviously, Dunk's the ideal person to go to, and I often message him, and I messaged him saying, "Mate, I'm really worried. It's like someone's possessed Mo Salah and taken over his body, because his first touch is dreadful. He's giving the ball away. He's not taking people on. Where people were shutting him down quickly last year, thinking that was the way to get in his face. And it was like a little jink one way, and he was past you, and he was looking to that next move already. He doesn't seem to have that. Whether he's overthinking it, or whether the worst case scenario is that he had an absolute purple patch last year, and he won't recreate it. But he just looked too good last year to possibly have a season where he would be a shambles. But he looks all over the place, and it really is worrying. It to a point where I was thinking, Mo, get off, bring Daniel Sturridge on, because he's hungry and he's scoring, and his goal ratio is better than Mo's. But you just can't argue with what he did last year. You just got to hope at some point it's going to click. His confidence to come back. Your touch is going to be a bit better. He had 2 or 3 shots where he jinked inside, and he literally hit it straight at the goalkeeper. And I just didn't see that last year. If it was a saved shot, it was because the goalkeeper was at full stretch tipping around the post, because his shots were so accurate. But his shooting, he just literally, he either blazes it 20 yards wide, or it's literally like a 9-year-old goalkeeper would save it. So I just can't put my finger on it. But I shipped him out 2 weeks ago, because already I just didn't fancy him. And now Mane's gone out of my team as well. So I've lost faith in Firmino, Mane, and Salah from a dream team perspective, which says a lot about me as a personal Liverpool fan right now. So I'm hoping that's going to change.
Well, James, James, on Salah, just quickly, do you mind? Do you think it's a little bit of the Sanchez kind of feel where he's just trying to do too much? He's been substituted in the early games of the season where he's 70 minutes taken off for Shaqiri, new signing. And I wonder whether now he's going, I'm not going to get the full 90 minutes to do what I want. And he's just now trying. He's trying to get the ball earlier. He's trying too hard. Like you say, he's just doing the basic things wrong, which means then he's overcompensating everything else.
Live up to the expectation from the awards that he's been given. A decorated player, so therefore he's probably thinking about it. Whereas last year he turned on, I think this time last year he'd already scored like 8 or 9 goals, and he kicked on without any expectation. Nobody expected anything of him, and he instantly became the main man. And Mane's had a dip in form as a result of Salah rising, and it was almost as if it put Mane's nose out of joint because he was our man the previous year. So. Yeah, I don't know, mate. I just think that he's just thinking too much about what he's doing and he's not playing naturally. But then, Chris, you saw him play at Chelsea, and it's probably similar. The performance that he had when he played for Chelsea is probably similar to what we're seeing from him right now.
I think definitely, yeah. Although he used to blast it over, I seem to remember. He used to get in good positions and then blast it over. But yeah, obviously, having seen what we saw last season, it's hard to fathom.
It can't be luck.
No, it can't be luck, but it has to be. I think it has to be so much in the head, though, doesn't it? I mean, that's the one thing you can't control. It doesn't matter what the stats are saying or anything. We don't know what's going on in someone's life at the end of the day. Yeah. And if he's unhappy, it might be nothing to do with Liverpool at all, nothing to do with Klopp. He might have shit going on with his partner or whatever. I don't know.
He might be tired, mate. It might still be World Cup hangover. Some people have suffered, some people haven't.
Yeah, and the other thing was he was on such an upward trajectory. That can't just keep going unless you're Ronaldo or Messi, and they just keep going and doing it. They're the only two we've ever seen do that, really. Yeah. Everyone else, they rise, and then there is an inevitable fall, and it's just how bad that fall is.
One of the interesting points that Craig made earlier was about Arsenal. I know we've gone off tangent a little bit, but I saw the highlights of their game the other day. And apparently the crowd was singing, we've got our Arsenal back, or we've got our club back, or something like those lines. They look really, really strong. And I'm honestly thinking about making some changes to put Arsenal players. I've got Lacazette, but they look really good, mate. And I think they could go on a run, and they'll certainly be challenging top 4 big time this year for me. And that's going to be the surprise package this year. Could they kick on?
Yeah, and Lacazette looks like a great pick, to be fair. And he's the perfect example, really, of the heavy hitters and the alternatives to the heavy hitters.
He's relatively cheap, though, isn't he, really?
I think he's 9.6, because I'm seriously considering him. What do you reckon, Pete? What's your thoughts?
Well, regarding Salah, I mean, I'm not sure if he's playing that badly. It is just that little bit of confidence that it is the difference from hitting it in the top corner to hitting it straight at the keeper. But the thing is, this season he's 13 million in FPL, and that means he has to perform week in, week out for us, for it to be valuable having him. We have to be able to captain him virtually every week. And the same goes with Kane to a certain extent. At that price, if he's in your team, you've got to be able to captain them. And as soon as you can't captain Kane at Cardiff, you can't have. He's too expensive to own. That's the issue.
Yeah, and that's why we're all thinking about the alternatives, I guess, constantly. Okay, all right, heavy hitters. That's that one done. Let's talk about Jose. We've got a Man United fan.
I think Salah will click in at some point.
Yeah. Well, he will, but as you say, it's about not just clicking in. He has to do it every week for it to be worth.
Do we know if people are shipping him out and his price is going to drop? By the way, guys.
Yeah, I've had a quick look, and he is the highest transfers out this week. Oh, other than Hollybass.
Really?
Salah's got 100,000 out this week.
But they've got Huddersfield and Cardiff next.
Kane's got 76,000 out this week as a comparison.
Wow. Yeah, but I think Chris, I think the difference between last year and this year is last year Salah had no competition if he wasn't on form, he can get away with a couple of games. Whereas this year, he has got Shaqiri chirping in his ear, going, "Do you know what? I want to play."
Yeah, he hasn't played yet, but yeah, you're right. I suppose there is more competition, but I want to get Salah back in. It's ridiculously hard, but I want to get him back in for Huddersfield and Cardiff. But anyway,
going to take Kane out, Chris, or is that bluff?
No, I think I am. We'll talk about it in a bit. Let's discuss Jose because No. We'll come to. I think the thing is when we talk about the next game week, we're going to talk about those kind of things. But yeah, Jose, right? So we all know what's going on. Well, we know what we've seen has been going on. Craig, as you're the Man United fan, what's your views?
How long have you guys got? I mean,
just 60 seconds. 60 seconds.
Right. It genuinely, and then I've got two Chelsea fans on here as well, so you've got history of admiring and then declining Jose. I think for me is changing Jose doesn't resolve the issues at Man United, and the issues are far bigger than Man United. They're far bigger than Jose. They're far bigger than Paul Pogba, and they're far bigger than Ed Woodward. So that is my simple answer.
What's the issue? Is it basically Ferguson can't be replaced?
No. I can't. We can't talk about Ferguson anymore. I think you can't. And also, we've got to talk about. We lost Ferguson, and we also lost David Gill at the same time. There's that. I think if we lost one and then lost the other a little bit later, I think we would have been able to continue building upon what we were doing. But we brought in, obviously, we can go through the back history of Moyes and Van Gaal, and then obviously into Mourinho. Mourinho is now into third season syndrome, as everyone's talking about. I think my biggest, if I was to kind of sum up Mourinho at the moment, is we're not seeing the true Jose. Where the Jose at Chelsea, at Porto and Inter Milan particularly, where he dominated the changing room, he dominated the players that are winning around him, he dominated the transfer strategy that he had, and everything was controlled by him. So you look at if somebody in the polite sense pissed him off in the changing room, they would not be playing at the weekend. And my prime example where he's not getting this right at United, and not where we're not seeing the true Jose, is you look at what he's doing with Paul Pogba. You go, Paul Pogba, okay, all of the summer we had the transfer rumours. He's on holiday, Riola, who Ferguson obviously hated, and then we get the Barcelona rumours, and then we give him secondary captaincy, and then he gets sacked from the captaincy because of posting videos online during the Derby loss. And at that point there, if Jose at Chelsea would have put that player in the reserves for 3 games, get him to learn their lesson, and then bring him back into the team. But Pogba's brought back into the team. We're here, he's not talking to Valencia, he's club captain. And Valencia is then playing on the next game. Sanchez has been moaned about in the press by Jose. He's then playing the next game. There just doesn't seem to be, for a manager that is, for me, when watching him at Chelsea as a United fan, where he would make a substitution after 20 minutes because something wasn't working and you'll go on and win that game. I just feel he's lost that authority piece that he had, that aura that he had, that control, and that's upwards and downwards around his transfer strategy as well as the change room. And whatever's happened over the summer, it's toxic, and that's the only way I can see it as a United fan. But changing the manager at this moment in time doesn't solve the problem.
Okay. Well, that was a pretty good roundup. I don't think we could do any better than that. Right, quickly, because we are sort of maybe going on too long. So, Pete, go on. What do you think about Jose?
I don't really need to add to anything.
No, I think that was a pretty good summation. Even though we're Chelsea fans, but we've seen it before twice.
He lost his mind when he was at Chelsea. I was
twice. No, second time.
Unhappy to see him go to United, and now I've gone from wanting him to go to now, whatever. Just stay. Have another average season. Then it's up to them really.
I think if you summed up if the final way of summing up Jose is he loses his system manager that he's had for the best part of 18 years beside him, and then doesn't replace him with any assistant manager. There is no assistant manager at Old Trafford at this moment in time. And you've got to look at, I don't want to harp on about Ferguson, but Ferguson's had 5 assistant managers over a 20-year period. He knew football was evolving, And as football was evolving, he brought people in to help him adjust. Carlos Queiroz was brought in purely to change to a 4-3-3. So for me, that's what was the disappointing thing about Jose is he's so rigid in his way that he won't change, even though he's then not going back to his original ways and how he treats players.
I think all I'll add to that, I think there's some good points there, guys. I think that when you look at the elite in terms of management, Pep is the elite, isn't he? Everybody wants to play for Pep. And then sitting underneath that at the moment, I think, is, Pochettino and Jurgen Klopp. Their way of managing seems to be the more modern way, which is basically make your players feel amazing, arm around the shoulder, almost one of the lads, but with a bit of authority. Jose's way is almost like an institution. You believe in my way, you follow my way, or there is no other option, there is no other compromise, and we'll fall out. We saw it at the tail end of Real Madrid. And I just think that players, the game's evolved in the last 4 or 5 years, and Jose hasn't moved with that.
Exactly. He has changed as well.
He's got so much more moody, hasn't he? He used to be fun. He used to be fun.
He used to command in exactly the same way that Pep did, which was you do it my way, and that's it. Whereas now he tries to say, Jose tries to say that, and they just say, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But he used to be kind of cheeky. He used to have that kind of smirk, and it was kind of like you wanted to hear what he wants to say. And now he's just so moody. It's just it's boring. Yeah, it's boring.
But again, does that also then build? You look at his home life. And this is really where it goes deep. But like he's living in a hotel 3 years in at Old Trafford, or 2.5 years into Old Trafford, 500 grand's worth of.
It sends the wrong message. His
wife and kids are all in Portugal. They're not here with him. He's not committed.
Yeah. Well, I think we've done Jose, and that was fun, but a bit depressing actually, because me and Pete used to love Jose. Anyway, no longer.
Sorry, he's made millions for us, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to talk about Everton and Wolves, and the reason we're going to talk about Everton and Wolves is, well, basically, the Premier League is made up of 3 leagues, really, isn't it? The top 6, the middle bit, and then the bottom, however many. And the question is, who's the best of the sort of bunch below the top 6? And traditionally, everyone would say Everton, and I'm sure Stu and Tim and all that lot would bang the Everton drum. But this season, Wolves look like they might be the real deal. So, what do you think about that one, Pete?
Well, I hope they are. I don't know why. Wolves that in that way appealing, but they have that appeal to them, maybe because they're a bit of an underdog and because they're playing good football. They're stylish. Everton, for me, haven't quite got there yet this season, but they look like getting to a stage where they're going to start being consistent, and they should be a decent side. They should be challenging Arsenal and United for those 5th and 6th places, basically.
Okay, what about you, James? What do you reckon for Wolves this season?
I've just put my first Wolves player in, actually. So yeah, I don't know. They look strong, don't they? And I think I was probably the first person to take the piss out of those teams that didn't get a result against Wolves, but. Yeah, they've been playing good football. Obviously, the Championship, everyone was talking about them, the way that they're playing. So they were a big club, obviously, back in the 80s, top flight side. I think what's interesting more than anything is the way that their players have been valued. I'm just looking at them here. Their most expensive player in midfielder is 5.5 million, and their most expensive forward is Jimenez at 5.6. Realistically, if you look at that, everybody should have 3 Wolves players in right now. They're on form, and we should be loaded on. But I don't think everybody is. People are obviously holding back because their values aren't increasing too much.
Well, that's
which Wolves player did you put in?
Can't say.
Oh, it's a secret.
It's a defender, but it's probably obvious in terms of
Doherty.
It could be Doherty, Bolly, or Johnny.
Yeah, I'd love to have a Johnny in my team. I do think that's funny. Anyway, that's just my childish humour. No, he's Spanish, isn't he? Johnny Castro. Right. What about you, Craig? Have you seen much of Wolves?
Yeah, I've admired them since basically Jorge Mendes unofficially took over them last year, and managed to unofficially sign players for really cheap who would be really expensive even in today's market, like Neves and Jota. So yeah, I you kind of appreciate what they've been doing, and I'm not surprised. I think we all probably all expected Fulham to maybe do a little bit more, and we probably all expected Brighton and Huddersfield ahead one way, which both of them seem to.
They didn't spend, did they, Huddersfield?
No, neither did Cardiff. And Brighton have spent, but if anybody can name me one of the 10 players they signed, you'd be doing well. Even though they did turn over United, but
yeah.
we'll move on. But yeah, I'm not surprised on Wolves.
Have you got any Wolves players, Craig?
Yeah. I've had two pretty much for the last 6 weeks. I had two at the beginning of the season. I went with Jimenez and Neves. I've stuck with Neves. I know his price is dropping, but he's still a bench player anyway. And I put Doherty in my team 3 or 4 weeks ago. He was on my bench last week when he scored 12 points, and he was in my team last week. He scored 15. So he's been a
game this weekend because they've got Watford at home, haven't they, Wolves?
They have, and no Kabasele, so you'd hope.
I thought Watford were going to kick on. I've seen them play a few times this year, and they've looked going forward. They started really well. Last couple of weeks.
Can I say on Watford though, the last 2 years they've started really well, and then they've sacked their manager at the end of the season, because of how they've finished the season. So and then they got rid of Marco Silva halfway through the year. So
but that Javi Gracia is the first manager they've kept who've basically had a pre-season. So you thought, oh, maybe they've got something going this year. But I do think Watford will be all right. I think Watford will probably be mid-table. But right. But let's not talk about Watford because we're going to quickly move ahead to now game week 9.
You haven't talked about Everton much, really, mate. I don't think Tim's. If he's watching there, be like.
Well, yeah, but now once he's watched this far, he's bound to watch to the end, isn't he?
Probably. Hi, Tim, if you're watching.
Hi, Tim, and hi, Stu. And also shout out at this point to Coolers, Sean Colohan, as he has busted his shoulder up and his nose. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd be with us.
Get well soon, Shaggy.
Yeah, get well soon, mates. Right, okay, let's look forward to game week 9. We've done half an hour now, so we should start wrapping it up fairly soon. Okay, so clean sheets, game week 9. Can you pick a clean sheet, boys? Pete, can you pick one?
Gotta be City, Toby.
Yeah.
James has gone for City.
I'll take the Wolves then. I'll definitely be playing my Wolves defender, so I'll go for that.
Okay, and what about you, Craig?
Dare I say it, Chelsea.
Chelsea, what, against United?
Oof. Yeah, good. Sounds fine.
Love it.
I thought that last weekend, and I transferred out Robertson, thinking there's no way Liverpool are going to keep a clean sheet against City, which I think a lot of people did. And that stung him with points on the bench.
Yeah, he was on a lot of people's benches, Robertson, I saw. Okay, next. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have Liverpool because I've got. I might try and bring in a Liverpool defender this week and double up. But we'll come to that. Under the radar next. Can you pick a player that might do well in game week 9? For anyone mulling over a transfer who might think what player they're going to get. Can you pick anyone, Pete?
Yeah. So just looking at the fixtures, so Everton might be good versus Palace, who aren't scoring at the moment. They're one of their defenders, Diniz, gets quite good stats all round and will be among the points at some point. So yeah, I'll go for Digne.
Digne, nice. What about you, Craig? Can you think of anyone?
Well, I'm glad you come to me next because I'm going to say Doherty. As we've been talking about him earlier, but I think. 12 and 15 points the last 2 weeks against Watford, who are a bit on a decline at home. I think they're going to get a clean sheet, and he should pick up 6 to maybe 9 points.
I hope so, because he's in my team. What about you, James? Anyone?
I think more in hope than expectation, but I'm waiting for Naby Keita to skyrocket and show what he's capable of doing. Now, I'm pretty confident he's going to start. Obviously, James Milner's definitely out. And obviously Keita is fit. There was fears when he came off in the Champions League, but that pre-season he looked just amazing, carrying the ball forward, getting past people with a fun, and he linked up really well with the forwards. It's a shame that we haven't seen Cater and Sturridge play, because they seem to have a real understanding of each other. But I just think he's one player that I'm waiting to get lift off. So I'm going to back Naby Keita for a goal this weekend.
Okay.
Red card.
Red card.
He got a couple last season, didn't he?
There's about 4.
Yeah, he wanted to play as little as possible, so he was
So I had a look at this earlier, and I picked a couple of Fulham players, and I can't remember who they're playing. But
Cardiff.
Oh, they're playing Cardiff. So basically, I've gone for the tactic of look who's playing Cardiff, which is fine. But I've got a couple of Fulham players who are definitely under the radar, not Mitrovic, but his forward partner is Vieto, who's got 4 assists this season, which I think is the level most out of any player. And he's only 5.5. So if you want a cheap striker, Vieto might be a man. And at the back, Chambers is only 4.3. And it's a nailed-on clean sheet, isn't it, versus Cardiff? So that's my other pick.
Didn't we think that last week when I forgot who was it? It was at home. Bournemouth smashed them 4-0. What was that?
Watford.
Watford.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. No one would have called that, would they? Anyway.
No, absolutely. Right. Okay. And finally, transfer plans. Now, it might be a bit early to talk about this, but we said we might come back to the Kane thing. So what's your transfer plans? Let's come to you first, Pete.
Okay, so just going back on what I said earlier, so the Lacazette thing is a temptation for me. So I might keep hold of Kane versus West Ham and get rid of Zaha for Lacazette. Is my other option, which is tempting me a lot. Big up my second striker, basically, because Zaha is frustrating. And I don't want to carry him. And Lacazette could be, if Lacazette's in any way consistent, which to be fair, he probably will be. You know, it looks like they're going to go with that formation, so probably will be relatively consistent all season. So I'm going to look at that very closely.
Okay. And what about you, James? Or are you keeping it close to your chest?
No. I mean, you know what my front three are, and I'd be silly to change them. I've got Kane, Lacazette, and Aguero. They won't change. I've got Hazard in midfield. He's not going anywhere. So I've already made one change because of the Pereira sending off, and I've brought in a Wolves defender. It just made sense at the moment. I might go -4 with a bit of a cheeky plan, but it's not going to change any outlook to those big hitters. Those big 4 are going to sit there and stay there. At the moment, the armband is on Lacazette. I just think that he just looks mustard, and he just looks like he's going to score or assist. And Arsenal look threatening, and they're growing with confidence. So I think I'd probably shadow the captaincy with Lacazette over Hazard at Man United. Man United are bound to do either get beaten 3-0 or nick a 1-0. So I'd fancy Lacazette playing at home against Leicester more than potentially a gamble, Hazard against Man United. I just think that Lacazette's the choice for me this weekend at the moment.
Cool. Excellent. And what about you, Craig, finally?
Yeah, I mean, without repeating everything, I mean, Arnautovic and Zaha are sitting on my team, and I'm debating about, with an extra 3 million in the bank, do I go for Lacazette? But actually, I'm thinking City draw, average result against Liverpool, and a good result for them, I guess. But Burnley at home, I just fancy Sterling for some reason. I fancy Sterling. He hasn't scored for a while. Sane's played, and I don't think he's had a good couple of games and a couple of average games. Just think Sterling could just slide straight in and all of a sudden score a couple of goals. So I'm gonna risk put my money on him this weekend.
Okay, who are you going to transfer out for Sterling then?
Probably Mr. Fraser.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah. He's still got a yellow flag, Fraser.
Yeah.
Well, but he is at the moment, but
he had a yellow flag last.
Yeah, he is. He
had a yellow flag last international break and then scored 18 points the week after.
Yeah,
there you go. Right, I think we've come to a fairly natural conclusion. We haven't badmouthed Kane too much, but yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks, Craig, for dropping in from Greece.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
And my wine glass has been empty for a little while as well. So.
Oh, mate, we'll let you get back to the bar. And James, thanks very much for dropping in as well.
Guys, can I just say on behalf of everybody, and obviously we said it during the end of season, you guys do an amazing job and make our weeks more easy to swallow, when especially when your team's done badly. We see your reviews that you spend time, effort on, and I can just say from everybody that's come involved this year, some of the new guys, they think you guys are outstanding, and you are outstanding. So well done, guys. You do a great job. We all do really appreciate it, and doing stuff like this is fantastic. So thank you guys from all of us.
Oh, thank you, James. Thank you, mate. Any final words, Pete? Or don't cry.
Yeah, I know, I'm a bit over.
Hey, goodbyes.
No, thanks very much. That was really, really good, productive chat going into next game week. So
yeah, beautiful. Okay, thanks everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
bye.